Good morning, viewers. How are you? I think all of you are safe because we are undergoing the great trauma in form of corona virus which has spread across the globe and we are living with fear. So set aside the fear from your minds. Be always positive and calm. And today we discuss another topic which is related to the COVID 19, and also it became a very received lot of attention in day or two. So in because of the Nellore district of Andhra Pradesh, one G Anandaya has started giving a medicine to the corona patients, and the matter is went to the higher authorities like the ICMR, Indian Council of Medical Research, New Delhi, and also sending a team of experts to verify the efficacy of the medicine which is distributed to the corona patients there. You know that is be called as a traditional medicine. For that, we have traditional knowledge is there. So before discussing all those things, I would request all of you to subscribe to my channel and watch the videos. If you feel it, if you feel that my videos are informative and knowledgeable, please share among your communities and spread my channel. My channel is meant for promoting the transformation of knowledge among the societies. So I told you that the sensational news is coming from the Nellore district of Andhra Pradesh. So there, thousands of corona patients have been lining up to Krishnapattanam to get treatment and free of cost. Even serious patients have been going there and they're getting a Ayurvedic form of treatment, and it became a national issue in India is concerned. So even the matter went to higher authorities, even the Vice President of India who belongs to that particular district, Sri Venkaiah Naidu, also keenly watching the developments which is happening there in Krishnapattanam. All TV channels in India focusing that happening there in Krishnapattanam. How it is possible that a ordinary Ayurvedic practitioner, by giving a sort of medicine that is Mulikas, the patients have been recovering from the corona, the dreadful disease. There are arguments and counter arguments are going on, and a team of experts from the ICMR is coming to Krishnapattanam. Even the Ayush Commissioner of Andhra Pradesh, Mr. Ramulu, has stated that it is a purely a Ayurvedic properties have been availed. It be called as a Ayurvedic medicine, but experts has to look after it after thorough scrutiny of that medicine. So things are like that today. You know, the world is devastated by corona COVID-19 crisis. As now I'm speaking, in the world, 16 crore of people are affected by the corona, and around 35 lakhs people have been perished, lost their lives by this pandemic. In India, it has affected around 2.7 crores people, and we lost around 3 lakhs of people. This is official estimates, but unofficial, unconfirmed reports are saying that it is more than that. Even British Broadcasting Corporation are stating that it is 5 times higher than this one. But is it not stoppable? Scientific experiments are going on around the world. As and today also there is no definite protocol is available to treat the corona patients. Even recently, Indian Council for Medical Research has time to time changing the protocols of treatment. And there is a from Ayurveda, Baba Ramdev had released a coronal medication, and he claiming that it is very useful. Those who are consuming it, they are definitely be recovering from the corona. So there also is some controversies there. So the coronavirus COVID crisis of 19 has resulted into dividing of the medical fraternity on their own lines. You know, in the world and also in our country, we have inherited some knowledge from our ancestors for treatment of diseases and illnesses. That be called as a traditional knowledge. So traditional knowledge is a knowledge which is we got derived from our ancestors, and which became very popular. As on today we see the news that Gomutra, cow dung, and all Ayurvedic herbs, they have acting very effectively in curbing the corona. So there is a one estimate says that because Indians, they in day to day their activities, they use it in their food items. Because of that reason, we have our death toll is very minimum as compared to the population, and also recovery rate also more than 90%. So what does mean by traditional knowledge? So I just told you that traditional knowledge is a knowledge which we got it from our ancestors, and You know, the World Intellectual Property Organization, which is a premier body which is regulates the intellectual property rights like patents, trademarks, copyrights, designs and know-how. It also given a recognition to the traditional knowledge, and it has given a definition for the traditional knowledge. Here I read the definition. So traditional knowledge is a tradition based literacy, artistic or scientific works, performances, inventions, scientific discoveries, designs, marks, names, and the symbols, undisclosed information, and all other tradition based innovations and creations resulting from intellectual activity in the industrial, scientific, literary, or artistic fields. So, here this definition sounds to be amalgamation of all the intellectual property matters, but which is saying that the traditional knowledge is a knowledge which involving all those aspects, and which we got it from traditions. Our father, forefathers, grandfathers, great grandfathers all have certain knowledge. So they passed the knowledge to us. So that kind of a knowledge is called as a traditional knowledge. You know, in India there are around 6 crores of population. They are from the tribal, and there is one estimate says that every tribal community from the northeast, southern part, or any other part, there every community is holding some sort of a traditional knowledge. Around there is one estimate says that 550 tribal sects which are there in our country, they are holding around 5,000 of traditional knowledges with them, which are useful to the every human being. And for example, the Khasi tribes, they have Jivani, a kind of a medicine which is a nourishing and also a will be taken for the removal of the stress. And one Yanadi tribal people, they also have 22 types of herbs and medicines are there with them. And if you go to Sri Sailam of the Andhra Pradesh, there also the tribal people, they are selling their forest produces and medicines. And if you see the any roadside of in entire our country, they are Ayurvedic, Unani practitioners, they are distributing or selling the medicine, and many people, patients will go to them because the traditional knowledge is a testified knowledge since centuries. So we have the belief. So with that belief, the people go to them. And the traditional knowledge is not only knowledge available in our country but also in the other countries, like if you our neighboring country like Thailand, there also there is a Palau Nai, a kind of a plant which cures the ulcers. As on today also people of Thai people they use it. Even in the Middle East, there also the San tribals of Middle East and Yemen and Oman tribal people, they also, because of this traditional knowledge, they constructed their deserts. The water is not there, but they constructed canals because of by availing the traditional knowledge. So traditional knowledge is not only for the medicinal herbs but also for any sort of activity comes under the traditional knowledge. If you go to South America, in Brazil, Amazon, the people of tribal people of Amazon, they had undiscovered resources they are holding. As on today also we are not got access to their knowledge. Even in Africa also, the tribal people of Africa, they are also holding a abundant traditional knowledge. So, but because of the industrialization, globalization, then creation of the rising of the intellectual property rights, the traditional knowledge had facing a lot of challenges. You know, many multinational companies, they encroached into the hinterlands of the world. They acquired the traditional knowledge and they are making the commercial utilization of it, and they are earning billions of rupees. And they are not parting that billions to the original holders of the traditional knowledge. Then because of this encroachment of the multinational and Western companies into the hinterlands, language, culture has been greatly affected. So that is another major problem which is there upon the tribal peoples. And one more aspect, that there is a lack of respect for the holders of the traditional knowledge. You know, we see across in our country, in every village, if there is a severe jaundice, the people go to a Ayurvedic practitioner, they give some medicine by using for 1 week or 10 days, the jaundice will be remote. They are not experts, but they have holding that knowledge, and we don't give that respect to that practitioner as that of the registered practitioner. The people, though in spite of that, they are serving their brethren. So traditional knowledge is not only accessible to everybody, but also it is a very cheap as compared to the other drugs. So that is the reason we are attracted by the traditional knowledge. Then in the international arena, if a legal regime we observe the traditional knowledge, for that we have many international conventions are there which are speaking about protection of the traditional knowledge which is available among the communities. Now we discuss it. There is a convention called the International Convention on the Protection of the New Varieties of Plants of 1961. The convention provided that, there is a great revolution has happened with regard to plants and breeding activities around the world. New varieties have come out. So at the international level also, to protect it, we have the 1961 convention is there. This convention protects the plants, development of agriculture, safeguards the interests of breeders and their local traditions. The maybe modern methods we have introducing into the agriculture are breeding activities, no doubt about it. But before to coming of this modernity, they had certain practices which they have inherited from generations, from their ancestors. So that is the reason that this issue became a very, very debatable and became a controversy. While general agreement and trade and tariff negotiations were negotiated in 90s, and also many farmer lobbies, they opposed this introduction of this agriculture into the GATT. But this 1961 Act protects the breeders and also the farmers with regard to seeds, breedings and new plants are concerned. Because we got it, that breeders or farmers, they got it from their generations. We had a famous case called Monsanto. The company, when it has tried to introduce the intellectual property or patent regime, there is a lot of opposition from the Indian farmers. Now we have UN Conference on Environment and Development of 1992, which is conducted in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. There it has been accepted that we have to protect the biological resources of the world at any cost. So with that view, in 1993, the world countries have been arrived the International Convention on the Biological Diversities of 1993. So this convention mainly speaks upon preservation and maintenance of traditional innovation practices, procedures of indigenous and local communities relevant to their traditional lifestyles and the conservation. Then there Article 8 is there in that convention, which says, provides that the states have every right upon the natural resources. It may be rivers, lakes, hills, forests, animals. So the right is, exclusive right is provided to the state. This convention speaks about it. Then one more, Article 15 of this convention says that the state has the power to regulate access to genetic resources and their use by foreign corporations. So if the genetic resources are there, then the state has the every right upon the genetic resources. If any multinational company they wanted to come and want to capture, the state can make an objection. Without the permission of the state, the multinational companies under the use of the World Trade Organization, they cannot allow to enter upon it. That is as per the one important provisions with regard to traditional knowledge, which is enshrined in the Biological Diversity Convention of the 1993. Then there is one more international convention was accepted under the aegis of the United Nations organization, that will be called as the United Nations Conference on the Desertification of 1997. There also states have been given absolute powers to protect the traditional knowledge and also ecological and environment of the country. And in the continuation in 1978, the World Health Organization, which is a premier United Nations body, which has been first time accepted that there is a traditional knowledge is there, and that should be respected at any cost. And for that it has passed a resolution called Primary Health Care Resolution, be called as a declaration. Then as you know that the World Trade Organization was came into force from the 1st of January 1995. Before to that, there were 7 rounds of talks were conducted, which be popularly called as General Agreement and Trade and Tariff from 1948 to 93-94. The TRIPS in the last round, trade related aspects of intellectual property rights have been added in Uruguay round. At the time of adding it, majority of the developing countries like Brazil, India, China, Egypt, they have vehemently opposed this adding of the intellectual property regime into the WTO. But the developed countries and the multinational companies, which they are forced the developed countries to accept it, and they are incorporated in the TRIPS regime. Even the WTO regime convention also under Article 15 clause number 7 embodies that states shall make steps for sharing of commercial utilization of the genetic resources. So states shall make efforts for commercial utilization of the natural resources. So it is a responsibility of the state. If any sort of genetic resources are there, the state has to make it as a in a commercial utilization. Then the same WTO document under Article 27 class 3 subclass B provides that, I read, members exclude patentability of the plants and the animals other than microorganisms and essential biological processes for their production if plants and the animals other than a non-biological processes. So this clause clearly says that the member states have no role to patent the plants and also animals. If they are naturally processed, then they cannot patent, except they can patent microorganisms which are not visible to our eye, which are very small tiny organisms. They can be patentable, and these plants and animals are non-patentable aspects that we have as per the provisions of the WTO. Then in 2000, in Doha round of WTO talks, where it is again accepted that the state has to encourage the traditional knowledge. That responsibility is given to every state. Then the state has to make intergovernmental committees for promotion of the genetic resources, traditional knowledge, and also folklore, to bring the harmonization of the traditional knowledge issues in the world. So these are some of the international efforts, and many non-governmental organizations have been working very hard for promotion, encouragement, and avoiding the exploitation of the traditional knowledge in the world. Now, briefly we see the Indian legal regime, which is how, with regard to the traditional knowledge. So in our country, you know, 90s period has seen outburst of the biopiracy. Many Western companies, multinational companies, they have pirated our bio products like basmati turmeric, tamarind, chamkora, gomutra, cow dung, ginger, amla. So they all those have been patented in American patent office and some are the other in European patent offices. So there is a direct invasion upon the Indian rich traditional resources. So the government has awakened, and the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research under the leadership of Mashelkar, so they waged a heroic battle and made steps for the depatenting of all those products, because these are aspects which we are using in a medicinal way or some other way since centuries together. If you go to the Ayurveda, which is considered as more than 5,000 years, we are using all those. Prior knowledge is there. If there is a prior knowledge is available, how a patent can be granted? A patent can be granted only for a new innovation. The existing things, the patent cannot be granted. So basing upon that, the Professor Mashelkar, he made a lot of efforts, and he succeeded in depatenting all those experts from the Western patent offices. Even in the Indian Legal Regime Patent Act of 1970, if we observe the section 3, clause number P, which clearly prohibits invention on the traditional knowledge, and also aggregation or duplication of known properties traditionally known cannot be patented. So whatever which are there since centuries, that cannot be patented. Even you can mix up that product with some other product. If you make something, that can also be, aggregation cannot also be accepted under our Indian law of the Patent Act of 1970 is concerned. Then in 2002, we made amendment to the Indian Patent Act where we added the section 10 sub clause number D, which says that every patent application which we are making should disclose the source and geographical origin. If it is not mentioned, then the application can be rejected. That a kind of a rule which we incorporated for under section 10 clause number D to the Indian Patent Act. Then we have the section 25 clause L subclass J. Again, it is amended by 2002 Act with regard to opposite to the grant of patent, allows for the opposing to, if a geographical origin is not mentioned, it cannot be rejected. It can be rejected. So geographical origin is not mentioned in the application, then such application can be outrightly rejected. If it is not rejected, anybody can make any application for rejection of such application. That is provided under this section. Then we have the Designs Act of 2000 is there, Trademarks Act of 1999 is there, Copyright Act of 1957 is there. All those enactments which related to the intellectual property rights clearly mentions or prohibits the claiming of any right over the traditional knowledge. So the provisions are incorporated in those enactments. Then in addition to that, we have in 1999 we made the geographical indications of goods registration and the Protection Act of 1999, which also prohibits the unauthorized persons from misusing geographical indications, and also to protect the consumer from deception. So if any geographical indication is there, like a Tirupati Laddu, it is geographical indication. A Nirmal toy, it is a geographical indication. Then if you are doing misusing the geographical indication, then that can be, the deception cannot be allowed under this act. Now we have the one more act is there, that is the Biological Diversity Act of 2002, which also provides that without obtaining the prior approval from the National Biological Authority, no person can be allowed to apply for intellectual property right outside of India. If you want to apply any application outside of India, they have to obtain the permission from this authority. So it's a mandatory on part of all the applicants. Then we have the Plant Protection of Varieties and Farmers Rights Act of 2001, and that act also recognizes that a traditional knowledge rights are there, and with regard to traditional knowledge rights, they have the farmers have the right of save, share and sell their farm produce across the India, and also they can make exports to the other countries. It is their absolute right under this act. So we have to protect the traditional knowledge at any cost. Just I told you earlier that we had in 90s have faced a lot of invasion to our traditional resources, which has been, we can say it is a bio-pirated. We stopped the biopiracy under the Professor Mashelkar, and for that they identified, they have digitalized the knowledge base. They created a separate knowledge base that has been digitalized, where on account 54 Ayurvedic textbooks have been, ancient textbooks have been digitalized, and around 1,50,000 Ayurvedic, Unani, Siddha, medicinal properties have been digitalized, and 1,500 physical exercises, postures in yoga has been digitalized. That for this they made around 15 years of efforts. As on today also this digitalization process is going on, because if it is digitalized, then prior we can say that if anybody applies for the patents, if anybody applies for any right, intellectual property right upon this, we can oppose, stating that prior right is available. How a patent, how a intellectual property right can be allotted can be granted. So, so traditional knowledge as in today's world became so important because which is concerning to all of us, even our mothers knows. When we child, they administrating some sort of medicine for cough, so fever, for any small illnesses. So all these form part of the traditional knowledge because of globalization, liberalization and privatization. The private players have been seeing or they want to exploit the traditional knowledge by to expand their assets. So traditional knowledge is a very cheapest knowledge. Every household, every community is holding one or the other traditional knowledge. So it is our duty to protect the traditional knowledge. Maybe there is an invasion from the medical or some other lobbies because stating that it is not proved knowledge or it is not clinically tested knowledge. Maybe the arguments maybe some extent sounds good, but already it has been proved since centuries. So digitalization is a process where if anybody makes any sort of criticism regarding the traditional knowledge, then you can show to the world. So with this, I am concluding my lecture on the traditional knowledge. Thank you for patiently hearing me.